Friday Heaters podcast. Welcome to the show. Today's guest is Abby Pucker. She's visiting us from Chicago, Illinois. She's the founder of Gertie, in town for LA Freeze Week. We're going to talk shop, chop it up about the Chicago art scene. So excited to have you with us. Jessica Perlman is in the booth with us. Friday Heaters editor, producer extraordinaire. Let's heat it up. Abby Pucker, welcome to the Friday Heaters podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Ben.
Woo!
Let's get into it. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, let's heat it up, actually. It's actually, yeah. Okay, so first off, Abs, you're in town for Freeze Week in LA. We're so stoked to have you here. Welcome to LA. Welcome back to LA.
Yeah.
How is your Freeze Week going? This may air a couple weeks later.
Good. I'm here for 2 days.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I thought you were here for way more.
No, so I was in Rancho Santa Fe, which is 40 minutes north of San Diego. And it is my favorite place on the planet. The house belonged to my grandma, who I was very close with, who passed away in March, and she was 101. And very much my sort of spirit guide. Mm-hmm. Very much the reason that I moved back to Chicago from LA in 2021. The reason that I started my company, Gertie. Her spirit is very present for me. She built an amazing place in Rancho Santa Fe, I think in the late 80s or early 90s, with an amazing architect from Mexico named Ricardo Legarreta. So when she passed away, my nuclear family now gets to be the stewards of this incredible place. So I did a team retreat with my team. There's 4 of us, and so we were there for 3 days, just kind of whiteboarding, working through shit. I asked Hannah, who's our coordinator, to get a gigantic calendar. It's like a dry erase calendar, and it has literally every single day of the year, just so in satisfying. Rows. We did our content planning, we did our programming, we did it's so exciting. Nice. So that's where I came from. So we tagged LA on to the end of it, and we timed it with this week, which is why I think that these weeks are great. I don't necessarily come to go to fairs so much as I come to be in and amongst the energy that they sort of anchor, I think.
Yeah, I like that. The energy that the fairs anchor.
Yeah.
Isn't it so great? On the last weekday of Freeze, when you kind of just decide to wave the white flag and take a night off, go to dinner with a friend and see one show.
Yeah, or just not do anything art related.
Yeah.
You were saying you get to this point in the week. I think it's when you get to a point in your life, or when you get to a point you've gone to art fairs or whatever for 7, 8, 10 years. It's not a jaded thing. It's actually I'm so happy I'm not insecure anymore in that I would have tried to go literally everywhere and do everything and be oh yeah, I saw all of these things so I could be part of the conversation. And now I'm yeah, I did a sleepover with my best friend. I haven't seen her play, so I did that. And no, I'm not going to any of the things you just listed.
Yeah. I feel like that's a great milestone. I feel like I'm getting there too. I have a certain responsibility, I feel with Heaters to cover a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but also you can never cover everything.
No. Yeah.
And I just got shingles recently.
Wow. How does a young person get shingles?
Stress.
Really?
Yes.
Is it as painful as they say?
Yeah, I mean, it's even currently painful, but it's okay. But I got shingles, and my doctor was yeah, it's not just old people.
Okay.
But you can't really get the vaccine. No, they don't proactively give you the vaccine until you're 50.
Okay. You got a ways to go.
Well, and now no one's getting vaccines ever, so. No, but yeah, so I don't know. It was from stress. And I was that's so wild. I think I need to start meditating or something because clearly my brain and my body are so out of sync. I didn't think I was stressed.
Interesting.
I actually I am getting married, so my future fiance, he hasn't technically proposed, but so I call him my future fiance, but we're getting married in June.
It's got some great alliteration to it.
Exactly. But he instituted one night a week. We just have dinner at home, just the 2 of us. I was oh, great, we'll have people over. He was no, just us. We can also have people over, but just us. Yeah. And So I feel like I've been slowing down.
Yeah.
But, it's just, I guess my body was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, you really have to slow down. So
there's so many questions on that.
You can't get to everything.
So where do you think, because you and I share some similarities, like where do you think that stress develops? Are you booking every waking minute, trying to plan all the things, start your businesses, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I used to think that, so if this was 100% of my day, I used to think that like the goal was to like fill every part of that and spend down every part of that.
Yeah.
And then like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, as I was starting Gertie, my company, I was like, oh, the goal should actually be to do as much in that time as you can without burning it down, without getting to zero, because you actually need a reserve of energy. And I guess that's like what they call self-care, and it was sort of like a new weird thing that I realized.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm obviously still working on
I was going to say still a work in
figuring
progress.
it out, doing all of the things, building the plane while flying it. It's like also being a good friend and also being a good sister and a good aunt and a good daughter and granddaughter. I mean, those things are super important to me. And being a good partner, so the world will fill your time for you if you don't really focus on how you want to do it. So work in progress.
I think there's something with that too, being a participant in the art world or the art industry. There's so many opportunities to support, participate, be a cheerleader, whether it's with resources or with your own human capital. Perhaps for people like us, like there's always that sense of there's always the opportunity to do more.
Yeah.
And so then the actual exercise becomes like policing yourself to make it sustainable.
That's a great word.
Was that your first time back at the house since your grandma's passed away?
No, I've been there since, and we like went through stuff and sort of looked at it and talked about it. And I also host a weekend every year over MLK weekend with like 35 friends, and we go there and just kind of have 3 days together, and it's generally the same group. It's been for 7 years. And when we started, it was like, we were like 26, 27. So we would just get super drunk and run around. There's a theme every year. I give characters. It's the whole thing. And like everyone participates. So there's like a decor committee. There's a games committee. It's like very ridiculous and fun. But now there's 7 kids between everyone.
Like they've
spawned children.
Yeah.
And so now it's like so amazing. And it's literally just like 30 adults like co-raising these children for this 3 days. And it's like, oh, this is what I would love for my life to be.
Wow. Do you see it like in perpetuity, being able to run it?
Oh yeah, everyone looks forward to it. I'd do it multiple times a year if I could.
Sure.
My friend Allie helps me plan it. We met at Sotheby's when we both worked there. Now neither of us are there, but like she's still in my orbit because of that. Yeah. So
I have always just heard you talk about your grandmother, seeing pictures. She just gives off this pure sense of being a legend. Yeah. Was she a significant art collector? Was she kind of big involved in the art industry?
I don't know if art was the same in terms of like the industry of it all.
Okay.
When she was sort of in it. I mean, like of course there were pockets of it, but I don't think it was anywhere close to like as big as it is now. But yeah, she collected art. She had an incredible collection that went up at Sotheby's. It was the first auction in the Breuer building. And
is that a new building?
Yeah,
for the
it's the new building. It used to be the Met Breuer.
Yes.
And they bought it and now they're in there. Okay. And I used to work at Sotheby's, so it was a very sort of like, full circle kind of thing. But she had an incredible collection. Most sort of notably, she had this incredible Van Gogh that was like very different than a lot of other Van Goghs. It was a bunch of books closed and open and, amongst some flowers. And it was just this very sweet, like joyous kind of scene, very quiet. And that was kind of like the big work from the auction. But like, artists of sort of that level, Matisse and Miro. And so Yeah. So I never knew that she was an art. She would never call herself a collector. She loved art. She loved architecture. I'd say like architecture and space creation and like place making. So overused, but like building the vibe in a place, whether it was a house, whether it was a party, you know, whatever it was, that was really her thing. So I think for her, art was a part of that, but more than that, relationships with artists, I think, were really important to her. So she was best friends with Nikki DeSanfal for probably the last like 15 or 20 years of Nikki's life.
I'm not familiar with who that is.
Nikki is an incredible artist who you should absolutely know. So I'm very happy that we're discussing her here so that the millions of audience members
so many
for
Friday Heaters out there
can hear about her. She was like post Duchamp, kind of like Tanguy and sort of like artists around that time. She worked largely in France and in Italy. She was American, but she was sort of, you know, like contemporaries with someone like a Warhol, but in a way that she commercialized her work and was not taken seriously in a lot of instances because of that. But she's known for these characters, these figures called nanas, which are kind of these like big curvaceous women. And she worked with a lot of, you know, tile and stones and concrete. She really was, I think she always wanted to be an architect, and she never went to school for it. She didn't have that training. She was a woman, so a lot of things going against her, but she kind of built her own structures in her own spaces, and that became one of the big sort of things that she was known for. But she was like just an incredible artist, an incredible mind, and she like she did a licensing deal with I think Dior. And she made these perfume bottles with these really cool, like Medusa sort of snakes on the top. She got enough money from that to fund part of this really amazing, gigantic, monumental sculpture park in Capalbia, which is an hour and a half outside of Rome. She saw Gaudi in Spain. She saw, you know, she saw Sagrada Familia, and she was like, I am so jealous of Gaudi and I want to build this. And so that was her version of it. And it's a tarot garden, and it's each of the sort of major arcana is represented in a monumental sculpture. So like she lived in the right breast of the Empress for like 7 years as she was building this tarot garden.
Clearly someone worthy of me knowing about.
Definitely. I think she's just like very underappreciated. She's having a moment for sure. Ruba Katrib did an amazing, I don't know if it was a survey show or retrospective or what it was, but of her work at MoMA PS1. I think it was like in 2021-ish, so COVID times. And it was very cool because Ruba, I went and I met her and I saw the exhibition and I was like, can I connect you with my grandma? Like, can we Zoom her in? Because she didn't like to travel for the last couple of years of her life. We Zoomed with Ruba and she took my grandma through the exhibition.
Cool.
And it was very, very cool.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
It's clear to me that, you know a lot about art, the way you speak about it, the way you have experience with it. Do you steer sort of the genesis of that back to your grandmother inspiring it, or other parts of your family and your development exposure growing up?
I mean, my grandpa on my dad's side, so Mama, who I just described, her name's Cindy, but we called her Mama. So she was my mom's mom. And she was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. She's like Chicago White Sox fan, diehard. But my dad is from Boston.
Okay.
And his dad has a gallery that called the Pucker Gallery. It's on Newberry Street in Boston.
Sweet.
And it's been around for 50 years. So, I mean, it's like a mainstay. And he was selling pottery and ceramics way before it was cool or like sellable. He worked with like master potters and multi-generational families a lot in Japan. You know, he was bringing that work here. And, you know, selling it for like $50 for a, you know, pretty large work. And people were like, $50? Like, now you see, you know, ceramics that are like $20,000 for this little object that doesn't have a function but like is cool. We talk about art a lot, and I think I also get a lot of my love and admiration for artists and the relationship between patron or a gallerist or anyone who is just a supporter of artists. I think I get a lot of that from him more on sort of like more of a professional basis. Because for my grandma, it was really just kind of a part of how she lived her life and socially. And for my grandpa, you know, he didn't have a white cube gallery. He like had a carpeted 3-floor building with like sliding, you know, racks everywhere, like with art all over the place. Like there was no back room, you know, it was like each of the artists had a section. So I didn't really understand until I worked at United Talent Agency what a white cube gallery was. That's just not how I had experienced art. So then I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I don't know, it's kind of this coming together of those two things and those two ways of seeing art that I think has informed why I do what I do.
Yeah. As your friend, I'm so stoked to hear that, because you're getting it from both sides of the family. And I think we share this background where certain sides of our families attract more attention than the other.
Yeah.
And there's always, I think we work really hard, at least in my family, your family, whatever, like is to tell both of those narratives.
Totally.
And so your friend actually didn't know about your dad's side of the family. I was going to ask you today because your mom's side of the family gets a lot of attention, but here to find out that your dad was like the bigger art lineage, perhaps.
Actually, more and more as I, you know, and work in this world, and a lot of my relationships are in the art world, which I pushed against for a long time, by the way. I'll just be around, I'll be talking to people, and I'll introduce myself. My name is Abby Pucker, right? I don't introduce myself with my full name, which is Abby Pritzker Pucker. Sometimes, especially in a board context, I'll be introduced as Abby Pucker Pritzker because it's clear to me that like that person wants someone else to know that I am related to, I am a Pritzker as well, which is always very weird. So like, I think what you were saying, you know, Pritzker is, I think, the more globally sort of like known name, or like it is aligned with, you know, certain things and, you know, wealth in certain circles or whatever. But like I'll talk to people, I'll say I'm Abby Pucker, and they'll go, are you related to Bernie Pucker? And I'm like, yes. And not that I'm not proud of the Pritzker, you know, side of my family, which I deeply am. I mean, like I said, my grandma Cindy, you know, is really like the reason I do a lot of what I do. But I get excited because they're like, oh my God, your grandpa taught me how to collect. Or your grandpa was so, you know, foundational to my understanding of art. And that's really what he loves to do. He doesn't say he's going to the office. It's like he's going to the gallery. And he just loves what he does. And he really advocates for his artists. And, you know, it's a long-term relationship. It's not this game of like hot potato of like artists jumping from place to place. It's like he's oftentimes has relationships that'll span 3 generations. So yeah, it gives me a lot of joy when people are like, this was an amazing one. So I went to Columbia University for undergrad, and one of the things that my parents did to sort of teach us about philanthropy was they said you can give to your alma mater, but we want you to create a program. You know, do something that like engages you with their development team. And you know, part of it, I think, was for them to see how receptive the development folks were to doing something that wasn't just, you know, okay, we'll write you a check and go ahead. But also part of it was like, how do you think thoughtfully about building something that has longevity, and that you're getting as much out of it as you're giving, right? And so I started a internship fund, basically. So we've funded over 120 over the last 8 years, students who want to do things that are not consulting in finance and law and medicine, but are the arts or nonprofits or innovation. So at Columbia, it's like there's not a lot of community around people who want to take a different path. It's, you know, it's a liberal arts school, but it's still in New York. It's very sort of like finance and, you know, sort of consulting feeder. And So it can be very isolating if you're looking to do something else. There's not a lot of built-in community around that. So we've created this amazing community, and one of the amazing people in one of these cohorts said, "My mom interned for your grandpa at his gallery."
Interesting.
And it was so cool because it's like this thing that I started to sort of like give back is kind of this full circle thing from my grandpa giving opportunity and like,
wow.
pouring into someone else who's then it's just like really, it's very cool.
How like, just the web continues
kind of my favorite thing.
Perhaps because of the scale or the intimacy of it, there's more opportunities for that
for the small worldness.
The small worldness.
I had lived in New York for 8 years. I went to Columbia for undergrad, so I was there for school. Then I went to LA for a year. I was like, this is not it for me. I did not enjoy the talent agency environment. I went back to New York. I worked at Sotheby's. I worked at a tech company. And then I ended up moving back to LA to work actually with my mom, who is an amazing film, TV, and theater producer. I think I really pushed back on being defined or being put in like a world. I think I was like, I don't want to be in any particular industry. I don't want to get so immersed in a world because I felt like then the politics of that world kind of became overwhelming. And I've always liked being kind of a floater and bringing my different disparate groups together. I think we're similar in that way. And I don't know, I think that it brings so much more than when everyone is like referring to the same things and it's very insider, sort of inside baseball. The conversations become very sort of self-indulgent sometimes, venting, kind of like self-referential. And I've always really pushed against that. I don't think I would be able to be in the art world if I didn't live in Chicago. To me, the sort of connotation of the art world, I think especially in New York, it's so intense and it is such a built out real industry and sort of
identity.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes you just forget that there's other people who also are in your city doing lots of different stuff. Your frame becomes really narrow.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that I'm really happy that I live in Chicago, because I can parachute in to different places, but then I have time to really like process and reflect, which I don't think I had time to do when I was living in New York. I just think it's really important to be able to actually do that, so you're understanding why you're doing things, and also so that you can have relationships with people outside of that very specific context.
Yeah, especially it's funny because like I totally agree with you. In this moment, we're in the middle of Freeze Week, so it's like maxed out. All of the most diehard folks are commingling and having great conversations, and it's like we're seeing all of our best friends in the industry. So that's very exciting and intoxicating, which I love. And then in comparison, though, when you were saying it, when you were talking, it made me think of going with my partner Emma, who is an accomplished painter, to a group show that she was in Sun Valley, Idaho. And you get into like a small mountain town like that. People might say it's like, oh, it's kind of like Aspen or whatever, but I would argue it's not quite that same scene. You know, it's still a little bit Wild West and pretty small town, quiet. And just to see people interact at the gallery, it was at Ochi Gallery in Sun Valley, and you know, some definite like diehard collectors that live there or have second homes there, but then just a total spectrum of people that are just like coming in and check it out. And the price points are probably better in some of those for the average person who's curious to engage or collect art. Just being reminded that like, oh, you can be like really into art and fan out on the minutia of what makes one artist great and the other one not quite as great but good. But I saw people come into this gallery and say, I really like this. This is pretty good. I'd like to buy this. How much is it? You know, it's like $5,000 or whatever, you know. And they do not care about that minutia. They don't care about who this person has shown with. They don't care about the CV. They don't care about like, you know, I have to be careful sometimes to be like, do I like this work or do I like the resume of the person who's made the work, and am I sort of letting that creep into my decision making?
which isn't bad. It's
Sure.
just, I think, something to be cognizant of.
Yeah, I agree. There's no doubt in my mind, if I'm being honest with myself, that I'm definitely influenced by my community and the people around me who either help validate or
Mm-hmm.
gas up something that I'm interested in or curious about. But
Well, it feels good. It also feels good to like be right. You
Mhm.
know, like when you see, a work that you bought 10 years ago for $3,500
Mhm.
work on paper, and then you see it hanging in the Gagosian booth,
Yeah.
giant canvas, or you go to the Venice Biennale and it's like there.
Yeah.
And, you're like, I got there early, like, which is cool.
Feels so good.
But it feels better to live with things that you love.
I like that. Well said. Okay, so you bounce around, and like post college, you are in it. You were like choosing to get into the art industry.
No.
Mm-mm. Okay, so post college, you are
Post college. No, post college, I was like, I studied Middle Eastern Studies at Columbia,
Oh,
which
wow.
I loved.
Way off. My bad.
No. I studied Middle Eastern Studies. It was incredible. I got to spend 6 months abroad in Istanbul. I went to Boğaziçi University there. I drank so much. I had the best time. I had like the grossest wet burgers in Taksim Square, which were amazing, and like had all of that experience, and that was incredible to also then like be in a place that was different in terms of culture, but to learn about it historically, and especially now it's like increasingly, for some good reasons and some horrible reasons, much more present in everyone's sort of psyche or in the news. But I was really interested in it because I went to Jewish day school in Chicago.
Okay.
And I felt like mildly indoctrinated, or like I was trying to be indoctrinated into like one very specific way of viewing the world, of viewing events that had happened. And then I went to a public high school, which was secular. And then when I went to Columbia, I knew that it had a more sort of left-leaning Middle Eastern Studies department. And I was really interested in that point of view. So anyway, all of that to say, I never thought I wanted to go into like diplomacy or academia, or like, be a scholar. But I was kind of like, that's the goal of a liberal arts education, I think, is like create a framework around how you see the world and like what kind of questions you ask. So to me, it gave me the ability to do that. And that was great. And understand that there's like 3 sides to every story, and to judge for myself based on, asking the right questions. But then I was like, New York is disgusting, and everyone's living on top of each other, and like it's just people crammed on top of people, and I'm sick of it. And so I was like, I'm gonna go to LA. And so Grace, who's my best friend, we moved out here together. She went to school in Minnesota. We're best friends from high school, and we moved out here. She really wanted to be a documentary film editor, which she is, and is very successful and incredibly talented.
Shout out Grace.
Shout out Grace. She won an Emmy. Yeah, she's so cool. But, so we moved to LA. We lived together. It was super fun. And I was kind of like, how do I meet people here? And it sort of became clear that the sort of equivalent to like a finance analyst or, consulting job, which is what a lot of my friends had in New York, was like working at a talent agency here. And so I told my mom, and she was like, are you fucking kidding me? She was like so appalled because she can't stand agents. But so I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. It's like a way, way lower paying analyst at a finance place. And you kind of just like learn how to be of use, learn how to be an assistant, like learn admin skills that still serve me today, whatever. But basically, I was asked to join this fledgling sort of art, which it's now UTA artist space, I think. But at the time, it was trying to figure out what it was. And it was more sort of the idea was like representing visual artists for like film, TV, other kinds of things, like licensing, stuff like that. So that's like, I just kind of stumbled into it. I thought actually it was kind of gross. And I was really just fascinated by it, to be honest.
The art world, or
yeah and like this idea of like a sterile clinical white cube gallery, and just these like crazy characters that I had met, and I was just kind of like,
love 'em.
So honestly, like I moved back to New York because then I was like, okay, LA's worse. I was like,
wow, just
well, I mean, I
swinging
had
out.
also had a very
Striking
like
out.
bad experience like at the agency, just kind of understanding that like not everyone is inherently a good human.
Shoot.
Like I think that was like a pretty shattering realization. You know, I mean, you're in grade school and then you're in high school, and unless you go to boarding school or something, you're with your parents. So for me, you know, I mean, my parents are like both people of serious integrity, and I love and respect them deeply. We're really, my family's very close, but like our values are very important to us as a family. Then in college, you're still, you know, you have guardrails, you're surrounded by people who are generally pretty like-minded. So I just, you know, kind of was like, yeah, people are generally good. And that was just absolutely proved wrong in that sort of setting. So I kind of left because of that a little bit, went back to New York, and just kind of fell into working at Sotheby's.
Okay.
And I worked in between like partnerships, events, and like sort of gen client development skewing stuff. So like Eric Shiner, I don't know if you know Eric, he runs Power Plant. Eric would like pull me in on all the weird like projects that he would sort of get put on. Like during the Armory show, I remember one year we did an event at I think it was like a Mercedes-Benz dealership or something like that, or BMW. It was BMW. And it was on the West Side Highway. And we ended up doing a performance by Brendan Fernandez, who is based in Chicago, who's now one of my best friends because of that event. He and Eric were close. He wanted to do something around Brendan and this book that had just come out for Brendan. So Brendan was at the Wythe Hotel doing this performance called Clean Labor, which was sort of about dancers that were like shadowing housekeepers at the Wythe Hotel and performing this sort of unseen labor and making it visible, making it like the subject of the performance. So anyway, I mean, he's still one of my best friends today, but we met through that project. I realized that secondary market was not necessarily the place to build relationships with artists or which I didn't know. So like part of it was like learning what I did and didn't like, or what I didn't want to do. And I think if you want to fundamentally change a system or parts of a system, you have to really know it inside out. And you really have to understand why things are the way they are if you're going to venture to change them. Because if you just come in from the outside with no respect or time put into actually learning why things are done the way they're done,
just the awareness,
well, then who are you to say this is wrong? I think you have to put in the time to really do the research.
So the next step you take is?
So the next step that I took was actually realizing that maybe the primary thing I was doing as sort of my day job didn't have to be the end all be all. And I could start having side hustles. And so that's really when I started producing.
Okay.
I started producing a play that I had seen off Broadway in New York that was about masculinity and identity. And it was created by this woman, Katie Cappiello, who was a teacher to these students. And she did a play called Slut, which was with I think she did it with 5 young women who were in her class. And then the guys in the class came to her and said, you know, that's such an important conversation about body autonomy and, you know, slut shaming and sexual assault and all of these things. We want to have a conversation through a play about what it's like to be a young man right now in these conversations in America. And so I teamed up with a friend of mine, Allie Clark, and we basically decided to take the play to Chicago. I was living in New York. She was living in New York. But, you know, that was when I started to realize, like, I could build relationships in other cities, but I really always kept being drawn back to Chicago. Whether it was, like, producing this play or it was in my next job, I helped open the Chicago market for a tech company. And then I saw the convergence of, like, producing something in Chicago and then, like, starting a business in Chicago and how the sort of civic philanthropic communities work together. And that's when I realized, okay, there's something here, but I wasn't quite ready to move back yet. And so we ended up producing the play while I was working at Sotheby's. I did the whole, like, under the desk talking to a theater agent at, like, CAA, like, on my work hours. And then in the meantime, before we actually produced the play, I had gotten another job at a tech company. Simultaneously, as luck would have it, I started building out the Chicago office of that company.
Okay.
And producing this play and seeing all of these interesting relationships between business and civic leadership and the arts and philanthropy. And seeing art as like a sort of bridge between different communities. And
you're doing that all from New York.
And I was doing it from New York.
Yeah.
And I would be in, Chicago for a week at a time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately I went to work with my mom because I thought, that was really, producing was really what I wanted to do. I had also produced like an independent film and worked with a first-time female director. I loved that idea of like working with emerging creatives and being able to help them amplify whatever they were doing, amplify their voices, their stories, doing all of the non-creative kind of stuff, right? Raising money, finding a theater, building an audience, all of that stuff. So I thought, well, okay, let me just go apply that because that's what a producer does in, film or television or theater. So I went to work with my mom and, I think I realized that like that was what a producer did in the indie world like 20, 30 years ago when indie film was actually a viable thing. And now it's really like a system. And so I was there for about 3 years. I realized that that was probably not what I wanted to do because I wanted to be really hands-on. I didn't want to shepherd a project that then someone else would decide the marketing plan for and someone else would decide how to build an audience for it. And so I like to have my hands in everything from A to Z, which is when I realized that I really needed to probably start my own thing and build something for myself. That's what I ended up doing. Yeah. But sort of taking all of those experiences and deciding that the art world was the place that I wanted to actually build.
Yeah. Very
and
cool.
Because, like I said, I ended up being in Chicago, it felt less intense. And it felt like I could build genuine relationships and I didn't have to deal with the politics of the art world, which in a commercial sense is really still very New York centric. The just concentration of galleries, the auction houses, I mean, the wealth there and the wealthy people there who do collect art. I mean, it's like unparalleled. It's like, New York and London, I think, are like two big places. Of course, there's other now geographies that are starting to do that more. But I just don't think that I could have seen possibility in building in a new way.
Sure.
If I was not in Chicago.
Do you think that's more about you just feeling at home there or being comfortable with that community, or just the fact that Chicago still has or had some more space and more openness?
I actually don't. I mean, actually, when I moved back, people in Chicago are skeptical. They're like, you have to prove that you're actually here, and you have to prove that you're really here for the community and that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. I find that it's like that's a double-edged sword. I think sometimes in Chicago we sort of shoot ourselves in the foot when we do that because then people we don't make it easy for people to feel like they're really part of something until they've really sort of proved themselves. And so I think for the first year it was sort of, I started producing exhibitions in Chicago with a partner named Zoe Lukov, who was a curator. And that's really how I got started. And I mean, I think people, kind of thought, oh, this person in the Pritzker family, especially in Chicago, that name has more awareness. Like there's more awareness of it.
Yeah. Little fun passion project here.
Exactly. It was like, oh, okay. So then when's she gonna leave? Right? She's gonna move back to New York, or she'll go. But like people didn't really trust. I think, and that's fair.
Sure.
And so I think I think that it was really just driven by like my pure loyalty to the city and belief that like there could be more and belief that we could do things bigger in Chicago. I think sometimes that attitude of like, you have to prove that you're going to be here, you have to prove that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, sometimes can also breed jealousy when someone is like thinking really big. I have access to resources that basically very few people in the world have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's both capital and it's relationships and it's the ability to really think really big. And so like I also think that there's that reality that's obviously really important to say out loud.
Sure.
I came in, I had just moved back, and I decided I was going to do this big exhibition with Zoe because I had seen something she did at Art Basel in Miami in an old surf shop. And I said, this is what we need to do. We need to do like a 50 artist group show with emerging and established artists. Give emerging artists in Chicago more of a platform in a serious way, in an incredible space, in a big way, and make it sexy and create a lot of energy around it. And it was February when we decided to do this, and Expo Chicago is in April. And so I started talking to people, and because of my middle name, because of my family, because of the relationships and the reputation, anyone would take a meeting with me.
Interesting.
And also it's because they want things from me, right?
Sure.
Like, and now I know that. But like, that's the reality is sure. When you have money, it's way easier to raise money. Mm-hmm. I think the goal with it was to say, we can do really big, bold things here in this city. We can put artists on emerging artists in conversation with established artists. And we can throw a party where someone who's on the board of the Art Institute has just as much importance or value in that room as the gallery sitter who also like moonlights as a DJ or has their own magazine or whatever. I think sometimes Chicago is a little bit behind in this way of like, well, it's deeply segregated. And that also, I think, really infiltrates kind of like how social scenes develop. And so to me, it was like, how do we break down class, race barriers and do something where people really do feel like it's their space, regardless of how much money they have, whether they can buy a work or not. It's like everyone has something to add.
So you do that, you take that big swing, big splash, you're back in Chicago. When do you start honing in on, okay, it's great to do another nonprofit contribution to the community, but like it would be really badass if there was something more sustainable that got everyone's skin in the game kind of more naturally, organically from a business standpoint?
The first exhibition we did was called Skin in the Game.
Didn't even plan that. I didn't know that.
I always knew that I didn't want to start a nonprofit, which is why our organization, which was called Art in Common, was an LLC that we partnered with a fiscal sponsor to do the exhibitions. And I think at a certain point after we did 4 shows, we did over the course of like 2 years, we did 4 exhibitions, 2 distinct shows, but Skin in the Game we did in Chicago after Zoe had done it alone in Miami. And then Boil, Toil, and Trouble we did in Miami, LA, and Chicago, all alongside art fairs in those cities. And I was super excited about it, and it was incredibly fun. And I think we did a lot of great work, but it was not a new model.
You're doing group shows, you're producing kind of a limited period of time to experience this thing.
Pop up.
Yeah. Maybe sell some stuff.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it was like at the end of the day, this is not a new model. This is not going to necessarily advance the conversation around like, what is the alternative to philanthropy and the commercial space? Like, what is there a middle? I don't know. I felt like if I was really going to put my money where my mouth was, I couldn't keep talking about new models and then just do something that felt like it existed already.
Yeah. So then Gertie takes shape. That's Gertie.
That's correct.
Can we, first off, for the record, where does that name come from? Because I think it often is confused for people.
Well, I mean, yeah, Gertie, people think I'm saying dirty, which I like a lot, actually. Dirty Gertie. It comes, good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It comes from Gertrude Stein. I have a friend. Her name is Jimena, and she does not work in art. She is not, but she works in PR, and she's a writer, and she always used to call me her little Gertrude Stein because I've always loved bringing people together, and especially bringing people together that like wouldn't otherwise meet. That's kind of always been in my DNA. In high school, I actually started a spirit club with Grace, my best friend, who is a documentary editor.
Oh, yes, Grace. Shout out once again.
Shout out again to Grace Zahara.
Let's see how we can get.
Yeah, that's 2.
Yeah.
We started a spirit club called GER.
Okay.
And it really actually did change like the composition of our senior class and like how people related to each other and like broke down a lot of barriers. So I think I'd always been trying to like get back to that somehow.
Huh.
So when the idea came about for like what Gertie would become, a lot of it was sort of like based on the idea or the premise that, especially in Chicago, because things are so segregated and siloed, we lose out so much on potential relationships that could like advance the city, advance, you know, the sort of station or position of like creative people in the city. Gertrude Stein, she had these salons. She brought these people, philosophers, artists, you know, thinkers, writers, whatever, together that wouldn't have necessarily come together. And
We
look what
hold
came
for
of
the-
it. So that was kind of the idea in Chicago, to figure out how to do that between different communities that don't usually come together. And what possibility can that unlock?
So, I mean, what are the pillars of Gertie now that make it a business, that make, you know, what is the structure?
Like the structure?
Yeah.
So glad you asked, Ben, because we are about to roll out what we're calling Chapter 2.
You've heard it here first. Friday Heaters.
Gertie, Chapter 2, coming to you soon. That was like really what we talked about with our whiteboarding and our calendar.
Love it.
It
Full
felt
circle.
so good.
Yeah.
So we kind of like meandered for the last, you know, for like 3 years. I was like, I have no idea what this thing is. I know I want to put people together. I don't know the best way to do it. Let me just do a bunch of stuff and throw shit against the wall. And so basically that's what we did. We called ourselves sort of a civic cultural agency because we were doing projects that we would kind of pitch because I thought they might fill an interesting need or niche. And then I would also have to get funding for them and then also execute on them. Talk about unsustainable business models.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that was not sustainable. So,
That was your 100%.
yeah, exactly. So I, about 10 months ago now, restructured the organization, which was really hard. It was like my greatest fear was like having to let people go. Because like, you know, when you're someone who comes from money and privilege and all of those things, it's like, how irresponsible have I been that I have like created these jobs and opportunities and said I was doing this thing and then I'm just going to switch. Like I'm just going to pivot. And like now I realize that, you know, you do it in a humane as a way that is as like humane and thoughtful as possible and give people runway because you can, even if it's not the best business decision. But I knew that if I was going to keep doing what I wanted to do and do it effectively, I needed to change the organization. So we really pivoted to now, you know, what we're referring to ourselves as is really a platform for the kind of amplification and production of ambitious contemporary art and performance in Chicago, but also bringing Chicago to the world and the world to Chicago through kind of the 3 pillars are exhibition, so a curatorial program, Chicago Exhibition Week, which we're in our 4th edition of, which is kind of a gallery week, for lack of a better term.
Friday Heaters has enjoyed those. We've attended 2 of them. They've been great. Dynamic weekends of art, people coming in from all over the country. Worth your time, worth your curiosity.
Thanks. That's going to be September 14th to 20th.
There's the date.
This year. Hit Ben up if you're interested.
Maybe we'll put a little Heaters group together.
Ooh.
Another, as we swap entrepreneurial ideas
That'd be
here
fun.
today.
And then the 3rd pillar is membership. And membership is run by a wonderful person. Her name is Chanel Lacey. And she and I both share this sort of real belief that like we need more art collectors, but we also need to redefine like how they come into the system.
Sure.
We have 2 tiers of membership that we're sort of launching soon. Another tier of membership. We have had one for the past 2 years, $600 a year or $55 a month. You get 2 pieces of programming every month in person, which is a lot. And we partner with artists to do studio visits. We partner with galleries to do exhibition walkthroughs. We partner with museums and institutions to do curator-led tours. You know, so we're starting to really kind of build that out more.
Do you feel pressure to constantly be like, am I providing value for this membership? Are we giving enough?
Honestly, no. Like, I am so glad that we didn't become a nonprofit. because it is a transaction. And Hannah and Bridget were talking about this when they came on, and it's very clear, right? It's clear what the relationship is between them and an artist. And there is a sort of like clean nature to this is a predetermined, like contractually sort of like bound relationship, right? You're paying me every month or every year to provide a service. I provide that service through this variety of ways. And if you don't think that I'm doing a good job, you can stop being a member. Like,
you
it's
don't feel
so
guilty
clear. In a way that when we were doing projects that were sort of more squishy or civic or like philanthropically kind of like related or funded by foundations, it's amazing work and it's really important. And we were able to support some people who are doing incredible work in different communities, but the need never ends. It is truly endless, and that is devastating, like the lack of resource for incredible things and people and ideas. But I realized that if I was going to try to build a business, that couldn't be the case. So I needed to have a structure where there was a transaction.
Do you feel like, you and I have talked about this a little bit, I mean, whether it's Gertie or Friday Heaters, do you feel like you are doing that? Do you feel like you're a part of that next wave by doing what you're doing?
It's so exciting. Like, I finally feel like when I get up and I speak on a panel or whatever, I do something like this, I kind of feel like I've been a little bit of like a fraud for the past couple of years because I'm always talking about the importance of new models, but kind of kept being like, well, this is not the thing.
What is it?
And this isn't new, and that's not new. And this is what this is going to look like in 5 years, and I don't want to go there. And now I finally am like, oh my God, this is so exciting. Like, we're actually creating a new way of doing things. Like, we are for profit. We are producing institutional non-selling shows. We did one in September that was called Over My Head about conceptual art in Chicago and the importance of Chicago to that globally and throughout history. And in April, we're about to open during Expo at the Chicago Cultural Center, a show called Ornament and Information, which is about the relationship between Austria and Chicago and how that created the conditions for artists in both cities to do what they're doing and have relationships that they have. So all of that to say, we're going to do shows like that. And we're also going to do partnerships with galleries where we will also be selling work. And there might be a commercial show that will maybe look like an institutional show because of the space that it's in, but it's going to be a selling show. You'll
have a big exhibition that will probably necessitate sponsorship and partners to fund. You do exhibition weekend, which is a similar model, kind of you're getting big partners and sponsorships to help fund it and bring people from all over the world. And then you're going to do smaller exhibitions with galleries and membership,
Yeah, so the goal is that membership really is the economic driver of this thing. My team and I were talking about this. Is like free museum entrance, like, is that really egalitarian? Because what necessitates that is to have like a couple of really wealthy people who sit on the board or who give a ton of money. Like, ultimately, that's like a power conversation. So someone's not going to feel ownership if they have no skin in the game. Like, I really believe that.
I agree.
And so what we're trying to do is, really fund our exhibition program through membership so that members feel like they are enabling this work to happen and they're enabling it to be free for anyone to come in, just like a gallery. But it's much more sort of like, I don't like the word democratized, but it's more spread out over a lot of different people who are funding at a, lower amount.
It's more diversified.
That's the word. It's more diversified in terms of like the revenue, streams and where they're coming from.
But also kind of even makes me think of like where they come from, but using the word diversified too, in that sense of it's not reliant just on several elite people.
Right. It's not reliant on like 5 big people. It's reliant on 200, smaller people. Not smaller people, 200. It's not reliant on 5 large donors. It's reliant on 200 people who are deciding that this is worth their money. Like, our members range a lot, but like some of them are very established collectors. And some of them are people who, for whom like $600 a year is a really big investment. And we take that really seriously. And the best feedback that we get is when someone says, this is the best $600 that I have spent all year.
Oh, that feels good.
Like, that's really amazing. But I'll also say that, like, the only reason that we're able to do this is because we have a partnership with some amazing, like, truly civic investors. A couple who, they've been very successful in finance, and they are really giving us this space at a huge discount to be able to activate the space, because they believe that that is really important and will build value for other assets that they have. And so it's really exciting.
Cool.
That's starting to happen in Chicago, where we're starting to have these conversations with people in finance and other industries are now seeing the importance of like what we can bring in terms of how the creative economy can derive or can generate value.
Yeah, like you're bringing cultural cachet to Chicago.
When I really know that like this is working, which is obviously my dream, is when people start nationally and internationally thinking of Chicago as a place to move to have a successful creative career. And I think right now Chicago is very largely like logistics and like nuts and bolts and infrastructure, which is super important. You know, but I really want it to be a place where, because it has been in the past. You know, we have an incredible house music scene. We have, you know, an incredible DIY sort of art scene. We have amazing contemporary visual artists who are living in Chicago and working all over the world. I think we really need to do a better job of like creating infrastructure that creates jobs, that creates opportunities for people to come and really say, I can be successful as a creative in this city.
Prior to New York and LA, like the Chicago Expo art scene was actually the first
so
art fair.
It was, I mean, for a long time, it was in Basel.
Switzerland.
Yep. And Art Chicago.
Yeah.
Tony Carmen was involved with Art Chicago. He evolved it into Expo Chicago, which has been around for over 10 years now.
So I just think it's like a really beautiful story about you leaving Chicago and then coming back and being like, no, Chicago. So
Yeah,
I think that's really cool.
I so deeply believe in Chicago, and it is like so the place that I am so excited to build and to like have all of my energy and my, you know, work and successes and failures and whatever accrue to what Chicago is becoming and will be and is.
The Chicago World's Fair. There's like this long history of people coming to Chicago to see the new thing or going to Chicago to launch your thing. Right. You know, it's like, let's bring it back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so funny too because like Museum Campus on the South Side and then also the Art Institute, the building, the site of that, those were both constructed for the World's Fair. So like there's still infrastructure that exists that fuels our creative economy, community, ecosystem that are like vestiges from that. And I love the World's Fair. It's fascinating.
Well, it's really fun to have you with us today. Knowing you for some time, being friends for some time, and seeing how it's all taking shape, and it never quite happens immediately when you want it to, no matter how intentional or how many resources or whatever, like stuff still takes time. And it's almost therapeutic for me to hear you learn more about the specifics of how you got to the moment today, as we are all amidst the Friday, John and I are amidst the Friday Heaters project as well.
I'm so excited about what you guys are doing. And I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. And I can't wait to keep doing things together. I love the ideas that have come out of this conversation, but even beyond that.
Yeah. Friday Heaters, our guest today, Abby Pucker. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time.